In the U.S., which has the most cases of COVID-19 and the most deaths, millions of people are not waiting until November 3rd to vote. A record 35 million people have voted early in the presidential election. Though it's not easy for everyone. Voter suppression, discouraging or preventing certain groups of people from casting a ballot is a real issue for millions of Americans. As Jackson Proskow explains, the U.S. is one of the few Western democracies that makes it difficult for citizens to have their say.
They say everything's bigger in Texas. And in sprawling Harris County, home to Houston, this is the incredible line to return a mail-in ballot. There's just one drop box for 4.5 million residents.
It really does not make sense. It's totally inconvenient.
But we had to do it.
Instead of making it easier to vote during the pandemic, the governor of Texas made it harder, ruling each county could only have one box, claiming it's an issue of election security.
Anytime you see governments, I think, trying to take actions that appear to make voting harder, it should raise questions.
Experts see yet another attempt at voter suppression in a country full of examples. State after state has purged millions of eligible voters from the rolls. In many states, the deadline to register to vote has come and gone. Then there are the increasingly strict voter ID laws.
Unlike Canada, which has universal voter registration, which has a national uniform method for federal elections, and which has national voter rolls, none of those exist in the United States.
It's up to each state to decide how the election is administered. In Georgia, where there's a long history of voter suppression, black voters are more likely to face long waits to vote than white voters. In Pennsylvania, there have been running court battles over which votes should count. The Supreme Court ruled that mail-in ballots returned up to 3 days after the election are valid, despite the objections of Republicans.
Where we are heading is that we are headed to a complete degrading of our democracy, where we'll essentially exist as a democracy in name, but not in fact.
It'll end up being a rigged election.
Even President Donald Trump's own words about the election are seen as a way of discouraging voters. Despite so many obstacles, it may all be having the opposite effect, drawing historic early turnout with Americans more determined than ever to vote. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.